Welcome to this video, you guys, and in this video I'm going to be giving my thoughts and review of Final Fantasy VII Remake. Now, this game has actually been out for a while now. It's actually now been a few weeks since I've beaten it, but I'm finally getting around to reviewing it right now. Now, full disclaimer, I never played the original game. My original connection to Final Fantasy came from the Kingdom Hearts series, where various Final Fantasy characters were featured in sort of side roles in the first few installments of those series. It was after that I went to go sort of revisit some of those stories and characters and games in the various Final Fantasy games, and Final Fantasy VII is the crown jewel of Final Fantasy, to the point where it spawned various sequels, prequels, and now finally a remake. Now, as a remake, this is the exact same carbon copy story that we got from the original game. It's the same sort of team mission, environmental theme story from that original, to the point where if you go back and you just sync up sort of the original game while playing this new PS4 one, you'll see that, wow, this really is sort of a carbon copy and sort of bringing that story to this generation. And it is cool to see sort of how things have changed over the past 20 years when it comes to sort of a game engine. Now, this remake's production kept fans waiting a while, ever since 2015. And where all that time shows off is the game's detail when it came to how long the production took. The level of detail in the game's environments, from the buildings, the scenery, and the NPCs, and fantastic, and truly brings the game alive in every single section you visit. Overall, I would say that the visual presentation is definitely sort of the highest selling point of this game right here. It truly is a beautifully detailed game. Something else cool that the developers did in this game was the game offers sort of a lot of sections to where different decisions that you make affect what kind of cutscenes you get. Some of the decisions are big, some are small, but it's really cool and it keeps you on your toes and makes you constantly think of how you want things to play out in the story of Cloud, Aerith, and Tifa, their sort of love triangle, and sort of also cool things like sort of what kind of dress Aerith gets. All the decisions that you make in the game sort of shows how things play out in different cutscenes, and it adds a lot of rewatch value too, to sort of go back on YouTube and see like how would things have played out if I chose this. Now, speaking of those characters, the voice at work for all of the characters, including some of the ones I didn't mention, like Barrett and Jesse, is great, and it really brings to life the original story of Final Fantasy VII. All that stuff was fantastic. What I really have sort of a tough time judging, though, is the combat system. Thankfully, the game does not use that static take your turn system that the original Final Fantasy VII had and various other Final Fantasies had. To me, that system is really kind of boring. The best way to describe this system is as sort of a combination between Kingdom Hearts' real-time action along with sort of like the telegraph style of the original, where there are points where you can sort of like telegraph your attacks, and sort of enemies will telegraph your attacks to where it'll say like this enemy is about to do this attack. Between using the menu shortcuts, the system overall is smooth enough. What I had an issue with, though, was the difficulty. Playing the game on normal, there's a lot of random battle encounters and a few boss fights where they will absolutely shred your party, and some of them are just like absolutely impossible, to where early on when I was playing the game, I got to a section where some enemies had some flamethrowers, and I tried for like maybe like 40 plus minutes, and it was just like, what the hell is going on here? Why am I getting shredded by just this random like encounter battle? Now, thankfully, the game does offer you the option to change the difficulty at any time. So you can't get past tough sections without too much trouble if you just say, okay, fuck this, I'm just going to change the difficulty. But overall, I have sort of a tough time praising sort of a combat section to where you can just change sort of the gameplay settings just to say like, well, can't do this, let me go on and move on. And later on, you can unlock the harder difficulty to where your options are really limited, but yet there are all those people on YouTube that make it look like it's no issue. Me, myself, I don't know, maybe I need to spend more time playing it, but overall, I thought the combat system, in terms of how the difficulty was balanced at times, could definitely have used some work, in my opinion. Now, what keeps you from getting bored, though, is that obviously during the combat, you get the option to switch between your characters. The four main characters you got Cloud, you got Tifa, you got Aerith, and you got Barrett. My least favorite definitely was Barrett. My favorite by far definitely was probably Tifa, for various reasons. Each of these characters have sort of their own style, so it keeps you on your toes playing as each one. Aerith, Cloud has sort of the sword gameplay, Aerith is more of a mage, Tifa close hand-to-hand combat, and Barrett, he's sort of that long-range shooter. So that switching up things with the characters definitely keeps you from getting bored. While playing the game also, the game offers you a whole lot of side quests during your actual story mission, to the point where if you actually try to do them all while playing the story, your playthrough will take a whole lot longer than it should. Me, myself, I didn't really do sort of a ton of the side missions while playing the game. I was more sort of focused on the story and just going through the environments and stuff like that. Thankfully, the game gives you the option to complete all of those quests post game, and that's a good thing, just because there's a whole lot of quests that they throw at you in various sections of the game. Between the incredible detail, fun characters, and the mostly satisfying gameplay experience, I had a good time with this game. I didn't even mention sort of the cool sort of motorcycle sequences where it's all like, wow, this is kind of badass how they changed things up. This is really fun right here. I overall had a pretty good time with this game. I'm gonna end up giving it an 8 out of 10. I had some problems with how sort of the combat was balanced and sort of how the story sort of translates into sort of how a story is told in sort of this generation of gaming. But overall, it was still a good time, and I did enjoy the game very much. Also, to mention this, I ended up getting the deluxe edition of this game. It wasn't my original plan to get the deluxe edition, but I went to Target. They offered it to me when I went to go get the game, and I said, F it, why not? So I ended up getting that. It's actually kind of cool. You get sort of a cool box with the game's logo, but in it is actually some cool shit. You get sort of all of this shit. You get sort of a mini soundtrack. You get the original sort of the regular case covering that sort of mimics the original game's logo or sort of artwork and stuff like that. That's kind of cool. You get an art book showing various of the game's sort of concept art and stuff like that, and you get sort of a steel book showing off Sephiroth, the game's sort of main baddie. I don't really know what the point of this steel book is, because you already have the sort of the case artwork and the case box and stuff like that, but it's cool enough, and it's a cool addition that they had. So yeah, overall, Final Fantasy VII is sort of a remake, is sort of a cool package if you end up getting it. So in terms of the game and sort of the stuff you get with it. So that'll do it for this video. I hope y'all enjoyed, and thank you for watching.